Last episode, Holy Sweep was in a bit of a bad spot, as was my chieftain. The main issue, damage, but I've been cooking and reading your comments. This is episode 2 of the Holy Sweep wheel build. Consider subscribing if you like PoE SSF content, and let's dive in. Guys, there's a lot to cover. We ended with the first map last episode and we're continuing right after by taking a Pantheon, Brine King and Gruthkul. I'm taking the Fortification Node Mastery, making melee hits fortify for 20% less damage taken. I spec out of several fire damage nodes and take a Ravering Stance for stun immunity. I'm also checking where the plus max res nodes are for the Chieftain Ascendancy. I craft an Enduring Mana Flask for now to sustain mana, and the build looks like this. Big Chieftain explosions but no single target damage on the rare. I see a new wish option, a guaranteed 5 link, that's not bad. It is a sun leather, unfortunately. I looted an instant life recovery flask and used beast crafting to add the bleed immunity suffix off ceiling. I reach level 74, keep doing the mirages, take more max fire res and then die to 1000 wolves. I could have avoided that probably. Second attempt I do a lot better, it is always good to learn from your mistakes. Here are my resistances, only minus 39 chaos res. This ring should help out, so Thessalio has to go, and the build already starts showing issues. In a tier 4 map, this rare is very hard to kill. That is not exactly a great omen. I take prismatic skin, more max res, craft myself a new onslaught flask in a map, not that it helps, as proven by the map boss of this area. I found a new belt, 140 life, craft some elemental damage with attacks on it, and I gain a lot of life for only a small damage decrease. I drop my first divine orb of the run, and again you can see the map boss damage, tier 4. It is just terrible. On the other hand, clearing events like Breach feels great with the explosions, so there are upsides. They don't outweigh the cons, however. I trade the Divine Orb plus 5 normal flasks for 5 Divine Vessels, so I can use those when unlocking Pantheons. And what do you know, next map I already drop a new Divine. I do want to hammer home the point that my hammer strikes are very easy DPS. I get a Maven Beacon, that is nice of her. In the Mirage I'm invincible, but in the real world not so much, and this is what my average map boss fight looks like. This build sucks. One of the league mechanics I wanted to try was Breach after a rework. I'm growing that tree, feeding it blood. I wanted to use this to get a 5 and 6 link. That seems still viable, a 5 link at least. This onslaught mantle isn't too shabby, so let's work on that. First, colors. I need the green and the blue. I'm still running Holy Sweep with elemental damage with attacks, hypothermia, fist lightning support and added fire damage support. I craft dexterity on the 5 link and intelligence on the boots and ring to fix attributes, plus fire and chaos res on the helmet. Resistances look decent, let's apply a bit of quality and it is time to gamble some weapons too. This Maelstrom Ram Meat Grinder looks like it packs a punch. Let's craft flat physical damage as that gets converted, and it is also used by added fire damage support and Herald of Ash to calculate the extra fire damage, I think. I make it 20% quality and the tooltip goes from 23k to 33k damage, so it's like 40% more damage. It's pretty good. Swapping in Pulverize instead of added fire damage support is even a bit more, 34k tooltip. Pulverize is also increased area of effect, which helps. I'm considering Trinity support as well, but I won't be able to trigger it. The damage distribution isn't too good, I just don't do enough fire damage. I upgrade some more pieces and just slam some exalts. More armor on the helmet and physical damage reduction on the chest. Very good outcomes. Despite all this, here's Oak in a tier 7 map. It isn't all that much better, unfortunately. I am a lot tankier, sure, but yeah, he's been crafting too, it seems. I reach level 79, explore a Val side area, and here is the build in action. I still have the Warlord's Mark for sustain. I take the Executioner's Node, more AoE and damage. Finish that Val side area after a death, and have to escape fearing for my life. The story of the build so far is that it looks and feels okay once there are multiple monsters on the screen, but as soon as there's only one, you're in big trouble. If that monster is Vroon from Breach, I can't even kill him. It's not so great. Or you know, random map bosses once more. Or, God forbid, a map boss of a unique map. I never knew this guy had mechanics. I get the freeze immunity pantheon, which means I can get rid of arctic armor, so I'm taking flesh and stone instead. And I still get killed by map bosses. I'm removing the mark on hit warlord's mark in favor of elemental weakness, and I make myself a little holy strike 4-link single target setup, as you can tell. And as you can tell, it is a resounding success. Ironically, the thing killing this boss is a nearby exploding enemy, which tells you all you need to know. If I want to kill a boss, I better find another body to serve as a walking stick of dynamite. Without that, it's a disaster. I try to holy strike some more, but it's horrible. I'm sticking to sweeping. Here is the first Maven invite, which goes about as well as you might expect at this point. Give it a few deaths and 1.5 minutes for 3 bosses, and we're all set. I've made it to tier 8 maps, or well, made it. I decided to suffer and die in tier 8 maps is a more accurate statement. The tree grows, I'm going for defense rolls. I reach level 84 and identify a good amulet from the ground, lots of attributes. I craft some life on it and that is an upgrade. And not only that, I also found a coin for the Sarvesh's Darkness belt of the last episode. I cleansed the Desecrated Unique, turn it into Solarized Radiance, a fire-based belt, and equip it. This is going to explode when I get hit, blinding enemies in the process. Should be fun, let's try it out. And it works. Whenever I get hit, there is a fiery explosion, which is a little hard to see as the rest of my build is also fiery explosions, but you primarily can tell it works because enemies are blinded. It's a decent defensive layer. Vroon here is blinded and still one-shots me, but he is technically blinded and the build is technically working. On the map boss you can see this a little bit better. There are plenty of explosions and both bosses are blinded. Despite this being pretty fun and actually doing some okay damage, it doesn't have any other good stats on it, so I won't be keeping it. But I'm happy I got to try this out. Another interesting thought for an upgrade are these new breach rings. Max fire res is big for my build, but some chaos spamming doesn't result in much. I find my first trial in a map, complete it and get an offering of the goddess. I respec my breach because I can't reliably kill Vroon, so I'm going to do the other events. That is how bad the build is. I'm gambling more hammers hoping for an upgrade. I get a coin of power, my first one, and I keep gambling. I'm getting a lot of unique hammers as you can tell. I keep checking tooltip DPS, sometimes craft a bit to see if I can improve something, but so far nothing. This Dusk Blow Karui Maul, however, let's get Flat Fizz on there, and that is actually an upgrade from 37k to 40k tooltip DPS. I color the weapon a bit and get myself a cast when damage taken setup, using a level 1 elemental weakness, Molten Shell and Blood Rage, with the idea being this will trigger when I get hit, which works in theory. In practice, it's a little convoluted, especially because it is basically a copy of spells that I also use in the build itself, that I self-cast. So I can press Blood Rage myself, or it gets triggered via this cast when damage taken setup. And it's the same for elemental weakness. I don't really feel that I have that many great options for my open sockets, so I just try things out. That said, despite being still bad, the build is of course improving. I get new weapons, gems keep leveling, I keep leveling. It is at the very least not getting worse, and this map looks somewhat decent I suppose, until you realize it is a tier 7 map, but let me fix that real quick. There, see? Excellent build. I'm a genius, really. No, but on a serious note, the build is okay-ish in these yellow maps. I just know that with this scaling, red maps are going to be a huge issue. Also, something else you may notice, which I haven't talked about much, is the build is sluggish too. The attack speed reminds me of my grandma reaching for the cookie jar from a table that is just a little bit out of reach. My grandma also didn't have much less movement speed than this guy, I'll tell you that. Anyway, let's continue. From the comments section I learned about Hydrosphere tech. You can hit your own Hydrosphere for an extra hammer dropping, plus some debuffs granted by the spell. So I rearrange my gems, get Hydrosphere, link it to cast when damage taken for starters, and that should generate that thing often enough. This costs mana though, so I put back the Mark on Hit Warlord Mark combination for sustain. I decide as well that self-casting Hydro is just easier, and here you see that in action. You just place it around the boss, and if you hit it, it counts as a target, and you drop an extra hammer, which is around 40% more damage. You can also just drop it in the center of a breach event, while I reach level 87. It's time to slay the Spire for a Stygian Vice, which I won't end up using. The Envoy is in every map by the way, adding to my suffering. Breach is still rewarding, this is the hole after a high fortress, which means more tree crafting, such as this nice astral plate. What is good also about the fortresses is the chest. They can contain very decent loot still. It is time for another one, and again, a little loot shower. It's time to upgrade the chest that I got. I craft dexterity on it, some quality, coloring, and I'm going to slot in added fire damage support instead of hypothermia. It is a bit more damage. It's a decent chest piece. Time for more fortress chest runs, where I drop a perseverance. And the wish in that same map is a unique jewel, and it is actually a decent one. Pure talent, which is very fitting for me, as I'm sure you will understand. Anyway, melee skills have 25% increased AoE. Is that worth sacrificing a socket for? Probably not. Am I going to? Yes, absolutely. More AoE means more fun. Back to that belt, this is a pretty good belt, because on melee stun, which I do with maces, it provides fortify, and if you're fortified, which I am or will be, it provides onslaught. In mapping, this works all the time. During bosses, not so much, but I am mostly mapping, so I remove the 5 passives on fortification, take another 2-handed weapon mastery for more attack speed, plus an attribute node to make it a bit easier to gear. And it works, as you can tell in this map. Fortify is always up, pretty much for free. You can tell by the map boss though that it is less reliable in those situations, plus it hasn't exactly helped with damage. But as you will soon learn, nothing will. I start leveling 5 holy sweeps in my offhand. Keep running a ton of breach, it seems like a very solid gearing strategy, assuming you can stomach the gameplay. I drop a coin of skill, get a bunch of uniques from the tree, including 2 Dodri's Damnings. I equip one for an extra curse, so now I can have Warlord's Mark and Elemental Weakness active. It is hammer time, and this time it is really hammer time, with the Brain Rattler. This is a great item for my build. First, it converts 50% of physical damage to lightning, so I don't need a support gem for that or something else. It is full physical damage, so added fire damage support and Herald of Ash scale nicely from that. It has shock chance, shock magnitude, and does some debuffing too. I quality it, equip it, and it is time for some changes. Physical to lightning support is now useless. This weapon converts 50% and the skill itself the other 50%. I checked the damage distribution though for Trinity support, and I feel I can make that work. As long as my fire damage will sometimes be higher than the lightning, it should be okay. According to the tooltip, that is the case. Here's a little test run, and it works for sure. All 3 Trinity bars fill up most of the time, damage is kind of okay even, explosions remain very satisfying, but of course it is a tier 8 map. But hey, small victories, one after another. I reach level 89 while testing, take the 15% life mastery, which works as my body armor has no life mods. This is good stuff.
That's better.
A little later, I walk into another fortress and get another foulborn unique, but this time it is very promising, plus a foulborn jewel. I clear the area, get showered by loot, and it is a foulborn skin of the Loyal, with good colors too, and a red dream which I won't be using. I quickly clear the map by killing Malachi, unlock another Atlas tree, and then it is time to look at this chest. You can't change the colors, so I must use these, which means a green support gem, and the only thing that makes sense to me is hypothermia. I do chill, it is a mace mastery that I have, so it's just 30% more damage. I do lose a lot of armor and modifiers which were present on my previous chests, but I need the damage and the 6 link is huge. Plus 1 to all of these gems isn't too bad either. Chieftain makes it very easy to cap resistances, as you can tell, so I have very little issues equipping this item. I decided to use an automation setup in the weapon and link it to Molten Shell. I complete another breach node in the passive tree. The server then crashes on wave 24 out of 26, a classic of course. Aelith didn't survive that, because why would she? I drop another coin of knowledge. The 6 link damage feels pretty okay when mapping. This is a tier 9 map and I drop another 2-handed unique mace, the Desecrated Chalice. You can make it the Sacred Chalice, and the physical damages extra is pretty interesting, but I can't see this one working for my build. The tree drops a 6 link, but it's not the correct one. I'm handing in all the ancient wound gifts too, hoping for a lucky unique, but there's just not that much there. Support gems are reaching level 20. I found my first Mirage map, Fenderman level 20 support gems plus a Gemcutter's Prism for a 20% quality level 1 version. I start investing in shrines and it is good fun on this build. I also get a coin of power. I do a Maven invitation, this one is actually okay. I try to solve my mana by recoloring the gloves and get a low level clarity in. I also linked Arcanist Brand to Punishment, Elemental Weakness and Blood Rage. Blood Rage Arcanist Brand isn't a great idea, but it does work. The Warlord's mark is gone, by the way, that is why I need to solve mana. But as you can tell in the footage of this boss, mana has now become an issue. And a little later in the mirage of that map, I level up clarity so much that I don't have enough mana to cast my Holy Sweep. It's a classic. I try a different approach, arrogance support, reserving life with that clarity. Which works, but now I've lost 400 life. This is a questionable trade-off. Why not leech, I hear you ask? That is an excellent question. Right now, I just can't figure out how to leech using elemental damage, as most leech is based on physical damage. I will though, don't worry. To have a bit more consistent Trinity uptime, I changed this mastery to the fire version so I have more fire damage. I also take ailment effect rather than chance. I gamble boots and decent candidates I just slam with exalts. I got plenty anyway. The first one doesn't hit, but this one does. It's time to craft. Using the socket crafts on the bench, I craft 3 blue collars on the boot, so I can link Arcanist Brand to Elemental Weakness, Hydrosphere and Punishment. I recolor the weapon, decide to automate both Blood Rage and Molten Shell. Doing this with Blood Rage is a bad idea as it turns out. You won't forget to press Blood Rage, that is true, but you will die as it drains life constantly. A small price to pay, really. Here's a little gameplay after all of this. Damage is okay, explosions are great, and whenever I'm not attacking anything, I'm dying due to Blood Rage. Shrines remain very fun with this build, a lot more fun compared to SOS Guardian for example, and even single target damage in this tier 11 map with the double curse isn't horrible. I do have to portal out thanks to Blood Rage. Easy fix though, just unlink that gem like this, and then it is back to finish the boss. This is not bad. I also get an invitation. I'm not too eager to try that out just yet, I don't feel single target damage is really there. I craft myself some better flasks, a granite with a decent enough suffix and ruby to cap all elemental max res to 90. And then it is time for the Hunger Boy, and yeah, no one saw that. Apart from that glitch in the Matrix that no one saw, I'm also chilling the bosses by a lot, and that messes up my reactions to their animations, which now take ages. So I think they're done, move back in and die. I adjust a bit to those slower animations, keep those cursors up using the Arcanist Brand. It is not horrible I suppose, but yeah, it is interesting to see that I have up to 40% shocks and 30% chills as well on these bosses. He goes down, that is the most important part. And in the next map I get the next invitation, which means Stargirl, and here also pretty large shocks and chills. There's even a 50% shock in there. I think that's the max value of shock. This would all be very meaningful if I actually did damage on top of that, which I don't. But again, it is workable, right? At least we're getting something. She's taking okay-ish damage. If the voidstone bosses would be like this, I would be happy. But they're not. They'll have way more life. I keep swinging away at Breach, and you may notice I have Rampage from Unique Gloves. Apparently I didn't record that, but it is the Shadows and Dust Unique. It also provides mana leech, which is pretty nice. I increase quality a bit on the main skill, to hit the breakpoints to drop an extra hammer, and it is time for a bit more gameplay. This time in a tier 15 map. I've been leveling gems, just overall getting a little better at the build, and in a map like this, it can sort of hold its own. Whenever you explode multiple screens, even in this aspect ratio, it feels great. And it is great fun too. This is sort of what I was hoping to achieve when I rolled a Marauder. It's just that once you hit an object that has an actual life bar, and there are no other monsters around to use as walking sticks of dynamite, you're left with such a poor build that it's a little problematic. I'm not sure how I'm going to get any voidstones with this, for example, despite being able for the most part to clear high tier maps. After 2 breaches, the regular and the mirage one, I even drop a windscreen for yet another curse. More curses means more damage, so I will be equipping this one as well. I'm using the same socket strategy to get the 3 blue sockets, and then the 4th red is easy of course on this base. With this and Doherty's Damning, that's a total of 3 curses, meaning Punishment, Elemental Weakness and Conductivity. I make myself a regex for mapping, taking out the mods I can't run or find too annoying. Reflect, minus max res, cannot be leeched from, and hexproof, that sort of thing. I roll a few maps using the regex and continue the journey. I reach level 92, I get a coin of Power Wish. This is new since the latest patch. It's huge for SSF. A guaranteed coin is amazing of course. Some people in my Discord have a really hard time finding these, so for those that are bad at the game, now you can make a wish. Don't say GGG doesn't listen to player feedback. I casually drop a second coin in that same Mirage by the way. I drop another unique two-handed hammer, a foulborn version this time. This all happens while doing Egan quests. It's the Kongor's Undying Rage. Hits can't be evaded is quite nice, but the rest of this thing doesn't work for my build. I'm not a crit build, and I still have resolute technique. And now it is time for the moment I realize this build is just complete dogshit the moment I encounter something with a life bar. In this case, Mini Cirrus. This is a white map without mods, by the way. Look at it. Sure, these guys are relatively tanky. I've taken a few minutes in other wheel builds to kill these, but that was with some truly worthless skills. This holy sweep, I would think, has at least potential. So I'm pretty sure this isn't the skill so much, but my skill. Going Chieftain here made me pretty tanky, although not as tanky as I would have liked, but in terms of damage it is very problematic. From this moment, I'm starting to think about another ascendancy and perhaps a whole different approach to the skill. And speaking of skill, here's another coin. Before I get to that moment, first some upgrades. This is a nice new amulet from ground loot. Here's another coin of power. I struggle killing tier 16 bosses with my build for the final atlas completion. I get a 6 link from the tree, but it is evasion based, but fortunately a little later there's also a pure armor version. I quality it, craft some fire and chaos resistances, give it the same colors as my current armor. I think these are the best support gems for my setup as well. Remove the 15% life mastery because my chest has life, get reduced mana cost instead. This is a decent upgrade. All the holy sweep gems that I'm leveling in the offense just reach max level, and that means time to spend coins for imbuing. I have 8 coins, 5 red, 2 green, 1 blue, and I'm going for red. The first hits controlled blaze support, which really isn't good, then damage on full life, which I won't always be, and then the third one, a very good one. Endurance charge on melee stun, 4% more damage per endurance charge. I have 6 of those, so this is 24% more damage. I gamble once more with my own 2020 gem and hit Bernie. The imbued gem doesn't have quality, but I can miss a few hammers, I feel. I buy a few new gems to level in the offhand, including some leap slams. I get 2 instilling orbs using a vendor recipe, which means I can now finally automate all my flasks. It's time for another Maven invite. Damage is actually not so bad, but not great either. I complete the invite though. I get Culling Strike as part of the leap slam so that I can finish bosses by jumping on them. It seems like a solid strategy. Shrine gameplay is peak gameplay. Maybe I'll make it happen with the belts, who knows. I gamble 2 very nice gloves, craft life and slam it. This isn't bad and it may come in handy later. Here's the final gameplay of the Chieftain Holy Sweep, before I turn this into something that may actually work. If you enjoy bad builds, I've saved the POB for this. Maybe you wanted to salvage this for some reason. It is fun. I mean, if you're just here to clear maps, or you're in trade and have a headhunter, or another broken item that would simply fix this build and all the damage with it, you're gonna be completely fine and you can use the POB, I suppose. But in a fresh SSF scenario, which is my case, this isn't a very good option. After getting demolished by the map boss of this tier 16 map, who I just cannot kill with my damage through a little bit of healing, I give up on the Chieftain and start doing some theory crafting in Path of Building. It's time to respec. I refund 3 ascendancy nodes using regret orbs and another 3 using gold. I craft a bit of resistances on gear, so I'm res capped again, as the Chieftain provided a lot of resistances, of course. It is time for a quick lab run, where the game notifies me that I don't have ascendancy points. Thanks to GG. I may do little damage, but a level 33 zone isn't an issue. I one-tap Pizarro twice, and then the third time is the charm. I change my ascendancy to become a berserker, investing in rage and life leech. I planned this respec beforehand in POB, so I'm just checking a few items to make sure I can have all resistances and attributes fixed. A big help with that will be purity of elements, which I will be using. And then it is time for a massive respec in the tree as well. I remove attributes nodes, max res nodes, a bunch of mace nodes too, more max res nodes, and then I take mana reservation mastery, 3 different rage clusters and 3 corresponding masteries with maximum rage. Nearby enemies are intimidated when I have rage, meaning they take increased damage from attacks and movement speed per rage. I take +1 frenzy for just 1 point and a bunch of attributes too. Lastly, I will just take 2 life nodes for 12% life. For auras, I'm now running Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, Blood and Sand, usually Sand stands for AoE, Purity of Elements, and automation linked to Molten Shell. I self-cast Hydrosphere and Arcanist Brand with 3 curses in it. Time for a little test in Ashen Wood. I'm not res capped yet. I made the respec with a level 20 Purity of Elements in mind, so I'm taking a bit more damage than anticipated, but otherwise the difference is massive, even without this shrine. 55 rage makes the build feel so smooth, and while I lost tankiness for sure, I didn't lose that much clear speed, and single target will be way better. Being faster is also more fun to play, so I'm happy with the swap. There's a lot to improve still, but this is a great first step. The first improvement is an anoint, Clever Thief, which leeches mana and life on attack. It should be very useful and it allows me to get rid of the gloves. I also need gold after all of that spending, so gold volatiles will come in handy. I farm some oils and there it is, clever thief. It's time to sell some quality gems for a bit of GCPs and I get extra resistances. The build starts to have its moments, especially with shrines, and then of course you run into your own demise. I don't need max fire res anymore, so I craft an amethyst flask instead. After Clever Thief, I leech life and the build plays like this in silo. Even without shrines, it's just very smooth, and as long as I don't get one shot, I tend to leech myself back to full life in no time. This looks decently promising. Single target damage isn't bad either, and this boss isn't the best showcase maybe, but it is a tier 16 map. This is completely fine. It's time for more labs. Time to get my 4th point. I kill Izaro and take Rite of Ruin for rage effect. I also get Rage Vortex of Berserking, which is a super fun skill actually. I upgrade my gear a bit with Eldritch Implicits, area of effect and phase damage taken as, not bad. Then gloves, attack speed and lightning exposure, also not bad. I'm resistance capped again, that is good. It's time to blast some more and get my revenge on the Wasteland boss. He's no match for me in my new form, and hopefully also no match are the pinnacle bosses. First, Searing Exarch. He is a single target for a skill like Holy Sweep, and I think this is completely fine. Not so fine as the tankiness, clearly. Annihilation does indeed annihilate me. Also the balls explode in my face, it's just my luck. I don't have Fortify in these fights, which is pretty apparent because I don't stun this guy, so the whole idea of Perseverance isn't working on bosses, so I take 20% more damage than I otherwise would, which is very noticeable. But after I realized that I just played a fight by actually doing the mechanics, you should try it sometimes, it's pretty fun. And the first half of the first voidstone is over. It's time for the Eater of Worlds, which is a much easier fight I think for the most part. I just circle around and will have decent uptime on this guy. The intermediate phase, however, it hurts like hell, that damage over time. Once the boss is below half life, the punishment curse kicks in, plus very sizable shocks and chills make him take good damage and slow him down a lot, making the whole fight easier. He dies and the first voidstone is there. Slotting it in enables nightmare maps to drops, which I won't be attempting of course, and it makes altars more potent. It's time for the second voidstone. Now that I have decent damage, I can complete the Egan questline, where again it turns out I need to dodge the boss's abilities or this run isn't going to end well. Because of the massive chills, it is sometimes a little deceptive. The animations can be way off, so I take a little bit of time to adjust, but once I get the hang of it, it starts to look like this. It's not bad. I keep attacking and dodging and finish him off with a Culling Strike from the Leaf Slam. I see if I get lucky with this pile driver, which I don't. I chill a bit more in maps, doing Legion and Breach. I drop a Coward's Trail from Exploded Monsters. Make it to the Cardinal of Fear, where an AoE shrine is certainly helping, and that means the second incarnation, the Fear. This is very much the same thing, same damage, just do the mechanics, keep sweeping away at the boss and he will die. Again, the classic Leaf Slam killing blow seals the deal. Here's more eye candy in maps, just explosions everywhere from Herald of Ash. No shrines in this footage, it's just the build itself what you're seeing. I craft myself the easiest possible corrupted rare tier 14 map for Burial Chamber. This boss can be a complete clown fiesta, but this is great. Basically I just one-shot her. Talking about clown fiestas, getting Echoing Shrine with this build looks like this. It is a lot of fun, and being immortal is also fun. I take down mini innocents, respec Breach back to the unstable breaches now that I should have enough damage to kill Rune, and then it is time for the last incarnation of Dread. I know this fight the best I think, and it shows. You can stand pretty far away from the boss as well with Holy Sweep. As long as you hit both the boss and the Hydrosphere and keep up the cursors with Arcanist Brand, you do around 3 million DPS or so. Sure, it takes a while, but this isn't the bosser clearly. I think it's most important and most valuable that you can do this, assuming you're okay with doing a few boss mechanics. After 3.5 minutes he dies. I watch a bit of sibling shenanigans and my Atlas turns red. Not only that, I retrieve the second Voidstone. After slotting it in, I can get Astrolabes and special support gems, which is pretty cool. It is at this moment that I'm mostly happy with how the build has improved and how far it's come. 2 Voidstones, that's not bad. More is possible too, if I can be bothered. For now though, I am mostly having a good time mapping with this guy. That is what it shines at. Jumping around, sweeping the floor, picking up shrines, demolish the whole area with screen-wide AoE. Imagine a headhunter or even an inspired learning on this build, it should be a lot of fun. A reflective mist drops a +2 lightning amulet. It's not bad. Soul Eater is fun to complete degeneracy in the Mirage. I realize I should take the Lunar's Pantheon now that I'm running Purity of Elements and I am thus ailment immune. So I'm doing various bosses for the souls or something, while killing 2 runes in 1 breach, which is apparently a thing if you spec into the Atlas tree. I reached level 94, finished the Pantheon, run the Coward's Trail and some other unique maps for the 10 Atlas bonus point, and of course several crafting recipes. I have those on the main account though, it's not super needed. I drop a Pyre Support, funny, I had this one on a craft last league. It covers enemies in ash, which is pretty good. I color the weapon a little bit so I can slot in Frostblade too, which should help with movement a bit. It's nice, a bit of extra travel distance you can cross. My Holy Sweeps and Shield Slams reach max level again, meaning it is time to imbue. I have a few coins left. I get a chance to flee on Leap Slam, probably not what I want, but a level 1 blind, I mean sure, why not. And the sweeps, I'm not going to get something better than what I have, so I will get myself some new gems in the offhand leveling and call it a day. I make myself a little Maven boss rushing tree, hunting for the last 2 voidstones. It turns out it is actually quite a nice build for boss rushing, as you hit all 4 bosses at the same time, dealing tons of damage with tons of hammers, plus the Arcanist brand curses all of them. Shrines of course are also pretty useful and that is all part of the strategy. I get a lot of Faroon options in wishes, meaning a good bunch of Baria coins. I have no trouble killing guardians, but the same can't be said for Saresh. This guy is a lot tankier than I expected. It is a bit on the same level as the Incarnations, which maybe makes sense. It takes a while, but it's not hard. I don't get anything though. Back to Guardian farming, most of this goes pretty well. The occasional Synthesis boss one-taps me, but other than that I can't complain. He drops a Cortex, that's very cute, I won't be doing that though. I get Karokan's Flight from the Seer, keep killing Guardians and more Guardians, and drop Latha's Coil, spawn more Bredons, do the Maven invite for the Guardians, decent loot, decent death as well. I wanted to level up, so I create a tree with Beyond and Breach. Legion in a Mirage can drop incubators like this one, which drop coins too. It's a nice way to get a few more of those. And here we are, level 95, the maximum I will be reaching this run. Here's a Volatile Val Orb, which you can reasonably farm by doing Beyond in the Mirage. These are pretty common and are fun items too. Here is another Redon dropping more Barias and another guaranteed coin of power. And indeed, there it is, as advertised. I do the 10 Atlas boss Maven invite, complete it and unlock the 5th map slot. And I've gathered enough fragments for both the Shaper and the Elder. Starting with the first, here you see the Shaper's damage. It's not really much of a problem. It's a few million DPS, enough to do this, although it takes a little longer. Here is the start of Elder, so you also can see the ramp up a little bit and some of the prep work with the brand and the Hydrosphere. But once applied, again, it is okay for a build that is not a bosser. You realistically have to do this once to get the Voidstone. I think it is very manageable. The portal phase is very easy of course, as you have big area of effect and a lot of hammers. At the end of all of this I get a 3rd Voidstone. This one gives random Elder or Shaper influence on your maps. I did attempt the Maven, I'm sure you can do this on this build, but I was just taking a little bit too much damage in the phases, so I didn't make it, and that's fine. 3 Voidstones I think is proof of what the build is capable of. 4 shouldn't be an issue, but I just can't be bothered to farm that again. And I definitely can't be bothered attempting harder bosses than this. That is just not going to happen on a build like this. At least in my scenario, which is still SSF League start. I think there are many more upgrades you could in theory do, and I did end up migrating this character to my main SSF League, merging the stashes, etc. My main guy, the SRS Guardian, has found tons of gear. I could use some of that on the Berserker, but I also feel the journey is pretty much at an end. I'll be using this guy to have some fun in maps. He's reasonably fast, he can have massive AoE, and I can see myself gearing him up a little bit more here and there, but I don't think that warrants another video. So instead, let me share some thoughts on the skill, the build, and the journey. On the journey, I think it's another nice journey. Getting stuck on the Chieftain, pivoting towards Berserker, ending with a super fun build, a squishy build sure, but a very functional build as well, especially in maps. Considering this was all done in an SSF League start scenario, I think it is a very decent result. Which brings me to the skill, Holy Sweep. It is obvious this is meant for clearing, I would say, but when combined with a decent ascendancy, it can also perform well enough at least, in single target. I think it has a lot of good imbue results, which helps. It's a versatile skill, you can go area of effect, you can go damage, you can fully convert it into lightning or split the damage. I think there are several options and I explored a few of those. Overall, I think a good rework, the hammers look cool and do decent damage. Use a hydrosphere for some more single target, or as some of you suggested, a hateful accuser, or a writhing jar, or another way to spawn some bodies on the field, and you should be good to go. And then lastly, the build. I'm fully aware this isn't optimized in any way. It is an SSF League Star scenario, like I mentioned, and I didn't feel like grinding all sorts of content. I feel I have reached my goals without that. You could do that, of course, grind it out, look at other weapons. I very much appreciate it personally if I can make a build work around a unique weapon, especially a super common one like the brain rattler. I think that is just a lot of fun to do, despite of course being not optimal. If you would find some other means to convert the remaining physical damage to an element, you should do more damage with another weapon. Right now though, I feel the brain rattler is quite an elegant solution and solves many different issues. You could go cluster jewels. I personally don't like cluster jewels too much, but clearly those are very strong. I tend not to use them, especially not on starters. I think crafting them can also suck. My gear overall is pretty bad. I think a lot of upgrades can be made. I do like the triple curse setup, however. It pretty much doubles my damage for relatively low investment, boots and a ring. Dodge's damning in SSF is underrated, I feel. And finally, I think higher tier uniques, perhaps going crit instead of resolute technique. If you get a weapon with good base crit, perhaps some tattoos to help out with leech, automate war cries, better auras. I'm sure you can do way more damage than this and be tankier at the same time. What will not change, however, is how the build plays, and I think to me that is the main selling point. The 360-degree attack that you don't need to aim. Hammers auto-target everything. It synergizes incredibly well with all sorts of shrines, and I think it's a nice change of pace for a minion Andy like me. I'm already working on another project, guys. It's not actually gonna be a real build, but it will be a similar run like this. If you want to contribute to my private league so I can keep starting fresh challenges and characters, I will leave a link. Maybe you have a few spare GGG coins, and who knows, GGG may even reward you for spending some money. This is completely optional in any way, I will fund it either way, but I would appreciate the support. What is way more important though, leave a comment, give it a like, subscribe, that sort of thing, that really helps out. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. It's been a great journey, another one. See you all soon. Love you all, bye bye.
Choose what you wish. So be it.
Verdant canopies shroud the world.